Hey everybody, welcome to Grounded Moments. I am going to be straight up with everyone and with you, Michelle, who's on this podcast with me. I am in a bit of a snarky mood today. I think you had mentioned having conversations with a number of people about like normalizing shifting emotions. And so I think we're going to talk about that, which would be great because my inner world is wild. And I think that there are moments, or like I have moments yesterday was a gorgeous day outside. I took my daughter out. We took this like beautiful photo shoot. Like I discovered how to take portraits on my new iPhone. And I was like, wow, like I feel like a photographer, really these great moments. And then other moments where like I woke up this morning, I was like, I don't even want to get out of bed. Like just flat. I feel I'm irritable and want to be both helpful to people and I'm getting annoyed by people. And it's just like all happening. And then some I get stuck in and some I don't get stuck in. So I'm a little more snarky. So I'm just going to own that at the top end. So anyone hearing this podcast is like, man, he sounds and feels different than on his other podcast. Yeah, because I do feel different than on the other podcasts. And there may be moments in this where I just kind of want to like run away, and because that's how I feel about life, and there'll be some moments I want to lean in because that's how I feel about life. And
Yep.
so say something so that I stop talking, Michelle.
I think it is wild, and it doesn't feel that abnormal to what our friendship has been anyway. But the talk about like shifting emotions. What about shifting roles? Like our roles are shifting. So I'm here to tell you essentially that emotions are okay, and that it makes sense, that they all make sense, and that there's room for all of them, and that we can be compassionate with ourselves and with one another in emotions, when like that has not been my job.
Yeah, I
That
guess let me for those who don't know us, I guess let me contextualize that. So for anyone familiar with the Enneagram, I identify as a 4 on the Enneagram, which means that I am in any one moment feeling a gazillion different things. And one of my roles in life is to validate that everyone has feelings and the feelings are valid, and we aren't our feelings, we have feelings, and we live through them and around them and out of them, and I embrace feelings. And so the irony in this moment that Michelle, who identifies as a 7 on the Enneagram, who maybe your historical posture is, what are feelings?
Yeah.
Which is an over exaggeration, but I think to be in this moment where you're going, let's normalize feelings. Everyone has them. And I'm over here going, man, I don't want to have my feelings. I don't like my feelings. Take them away from me. Let me shut them down. Or, meh.
Which I can tell you all sorts of ways to do that if you need some creative ways. Oh, that's so weird. It's so weird. All of this is so weird.
What I think that's the part that I get the most pissed about is I want to just not feel things,
Mm.
but I also know that if I actually shut off feelings, I shut off a part of myself.
Yeah.
And as much as I don't want to feel everything, I also want to still be present with the people in my world, right? I still want to be present with my wife. I want to be present with my friends. Like I get really annoyed with all of this digital stuff and we're not in person, and I hate that.
Yeah.
But it's appropriate. It's good. Like it has a function. It's beautiful, allows connection. And so I want to turn it off, but I know that I mustn't turn it off. I would be less me. And then I just get mad of going like, why can't I just do that?
Yep. Well, and I think when I've been having a lot of conversations about this with people today and in the last week. I mean, even in the last 24 hours, I think of the meeting we had yesterday where we have these meetings with all of the therapists at Great Oaks every Wednesday that you lead, which you know. So I guess I'm telling other people, you already know this. And we all went around and shared how we were. And I was like, I'm good. Like I was. And it was true. It was absolutely true. It doesn't make my experience last night not true. It means that at any given moment, it can shift. Because yesterday I was good. And then last night I was like, basically, this is how it ends.
Yeah. Well, and like I woke up this morning, or no, this was what you sent me last night.
Yep.
Such a freaking roller coaster.
Go for it. You can read it. I actually don't even remember exactly the words.
I'm just, because this is the reality that here you are going like, I'm great. And then I'm like, at midnight last night, this is what you sent me. You said, such a freaking roller coaster. I can feel emotions rising. I had taken a break from social media, news specifically, for a bit until tonight, and I've gotten sucked in, and it feels so heavy. And then I see you today, and you're like,
Yep.
man, I'm doing really well.
Yeah.
I'm like, what?
Fine.
So Michelle,
This
fix
is everyone's
us,
goal.
fix
Yeah.
us, tell us, right? You're like, hey, let's normalize shifting emotions.
Yeah.
One, I think before you normalize them, I just need to acknowledge that me in this moment, um, and maybe there's other people that can resonate with that. I don't really want to normalize shifting emotions. I just want them to stop shifting. And so there's
Hmm.
like even entering into this conversation of going, okay, let's normalize this. Going like, I was about to say something explicit, and then realized I don't know who's listening to this, and maybe they'll be offended. And I don't want to offend anyone. We've got enough of that in our world. I don't have feelings at all. Uh, but to sit for those of us who are going like, it feels horrible that we're trying to normalize something that we don't want to have in the first place. And so I think I want to just have that disclaimer if anyone is in that place like I am today of going, sure, we can, like, this is the right thing to do. How do we normalize this? How do we be kinder to ourselves? How do we give ourselves more grace? But like, we're doing it with something that I don't want to be in to begin with, and that maybe there's other, and that's today. Tomorrow I may love it again. Who knows?
No, you probably will. Maybe like right after this, you'll love it.
Right.
And in an hour. Yeah.
Right.
I think so. Normalizing it just for myself is one thing. However, it doesn't mean that I am always okay with everyone else's shifting emotions because they're not in line with my shifting emotions. So when I'm upset, I think I'd just like you to be upset with me.
Mm.
And when I'm in a good mood, I mostly don't want someone to be in a bad mood when I'm in a good mood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm the opposite. Usually when I'm like foul mooded, I like if someone's happy with me, I'm about ready to slap them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is why I'm scowling and you're smiling and going like, this feels weird. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wipe it off.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, that's right. Oh yeah, I just said that. I just said it. Like I hate it when people do that and then I'm doing it.
No, it's
Cool.
what where I think even in this conversation, right, I can feel my mood cycling. Like this is like working with people who deal with like a bipolar disorder where
Yep.
you actually have cycling moods and cycling emotional shifts that for some people it shifts like a week at a time or it might be longer, but then you have some people who are in those quick cycles where they're fluctuating manic depressed and manic depressed, and like that's kind of how I feel even in this moment. Like we'll be having one paragraph, I'll be like, this is great, the next paragraph, this is terrible, and going, whoa.
Yeah. Yep. That's it.
Anyway,
I mean, I think we
slow me
covered
down.
it. I think we covered it.
And podcast.
Yeah. And record. Yeah. It's hard to know even like that's it. That's it. Is just learning how to navigate that with the people that you are quarantined with
Mm,
has been really difficult.
mm,
Working with clients and watching them navigate through that has been really rewarding. It's been
mm,
really rewarding. So it's one thing to say it, it's another thing to actually live through it. That is a whole different level of difficult. And so that's the normalizing piece for me, is normalizing the fact that we're all shifting all the time. I think we all are. It feels like it based on who I'm talking to. It feels like everyone's shifting all the time.
mm.
And just acknowledging it is such an important step.
Yeah. I think perhaps some of us shift more um, visibly, and others are more visibly steady, but still perhaps shifting internally. Like I think there's, when we talk about shifting, I don't think it all looks the same.
Yeah. So then it's really important to understand what's actually happening behind whatever you see,
Mm-hmm.
and not assuming that if someone looks calm that they actually are. They might be panicking more than you would have any than you would know unless you
So,
asked.
so let me ask you this question. Um, how do you not lose your mind on the roller coaster of shifting emotional experiences?
Step one, admitting that they're happening. I've spent a lot of time ignoring the emotions that live within me. That doesn't serve anyone. That doesn't serve me or anyone around me. So I hear. That's what I hear. No, it's true. It's true. If I don't admit that it's happening,
Yep.
then I will wear myself out really quickly. And if I wear myself out, then I will spiral and it will be out of control.
Do you ever have these moments, like a where never happens to me? I'm just thinking about other people,
Right.
right? Because like, yeah, step one, own what you're feeling, right? Like, I get it, but there are those moments where what you're feeling is so big that, like, even trying to sit down and do a mindfulness exercise and think about it and just going like, I don't want to own what I'm feeling. Like, I just want to like beat it up, or like, because I think there are moments where owning it comes easily. I also think there are moments where owning it like takes a ton of energy. And what do you have to say to those who maybe were riding that roller coaster for a while and literally just like fell off the roller coaster onto the platform, like the ride stopped and they just like got out and what poof, just face planted, and trying to process and identify what that feeling is almost feels like you're just getting back on the roller coaster to be taken for another loop again. And all you want to do is just be face planted on the platform and not move for a while.
Yeah, like I want the chicken exit. If we're going to stick with the roller coaster metaphor,
Yeah.
I want the chicken exit. And you can take it. It's not a chicken exit. In this scenario, it's not a chicken exit. It's not actually even an actual roller coaster. It's we are facing emotions that are uncharted territory because we've never actually faced this before. This is not comparable, truly, to anything else. I think I even said that last time and then I kind of backtracked, but that it's okay. Like, you don't even have to beat yourself up for
Mhm.
not wanting to admit it. Even just saying that, like saying, I'm feeling something and I don't want to figure it out. I don't want to address it. I don't want to move towards it. I don't want to sit with it. I want to ignore it. Cool. Cool. So maybe accepting it looks different
Hmm. Yeah.
than
I,
normal.
I'm thinking as you were talking about this being something that is new, that is different. I think the I should probably organize my thoughts before I interjected myself. That would have come out a little more smoothly. But I'm thinking about the incongruence between the gravity of how the situation feels and the visuals in my life.
Mm.
Like literally yesterday morning, I stepped out on my front porch with my daughter, and it is a beautiful sunny day. It looks like there's nothing wrong in the world. All of like my neighbors are in their homes, right? Like nothing's burning down around me. The earth hasn't opened up, right? Like when we think about natural disasters and crises, we think of like bombs exploding, debris being places, like visuals that would say, alarm, something is wrong.
Yeah.
But for most of us, particularly because we are in the state of increased isolation, so there aren't like long lines at stores and panic, and you don't see people running around. Like we're visually not seeing anything that would be alarming.
Hmm.
And yet we're in an experience that is so unsettling.
Yep.
And I don't know if you have this experience, but I like get pulled between like, why am I making this such a big deal? Like,
Hmm.
just live your life, just enjoy. Weren't you just wanting to spend more time at home with your wife and daughter? Like, why don't you just lean into it and enjoy it? And then this like other piece that goes like, but the world is ending and I can't do anything about it and nothing is normal. And the incongruence between those two is so bizarre.
Yeah. And when we are working so hard to have congruence in as many areas as we can, and I know not everyone, it might be spending so much of their time talking about congruence as we do, but when that's what we are aiming for and we can't control, we can't control this. We can't. So it throws everything off. It's like
That's not
it's
helpful.
not a new normal. It's not a new normal. This isn't. I actually have started to get really annoyed with that phrase
What do
because
you
it's
mean?
not. uh I think I've heard people say that you just have to get used to the new normal. No, I don't want. I I'm not in a place at all to say that this is how we're going to live. Like, this is
Mhm,
not how it's always going to be. This is for a time.
mhm,
That's all I. That's it. I don't know. Have you heard that phrase before?
mhm.
What are your thoughts?
I, I have like, oh, man, why do I have so many feelings about things? Stop it.
And look, like
Stop it.
even our language,
Stop it.
don't stop. I don't
Ah,
stop.
ah.
But even the language, I say, what do you think about that? And you respond with how you feel. And
Yeah.
when you ask me how I feel, I'm like, well, I think,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
we go into our
And
different,
yet my feelings are all also thoughts, and your thoughts are all also feelings, right?
yep,
We just language it
just
different,
all
and
have our time.
maybe the locus of where it predominantly sits might be different. I don't know.
Yeah.
But so like there's a part of me that goes, okay, if I just keep saying this isn't normal, how much am I going to be resisting settling into something that might actually be a while, right?
Mhm.
So there's a part of me that goes to not lean into the possibility that this is a new normal feels like I'm setting myself up to be resentful and bitter and to be frustrated every day that why is this still the way that it is? I just want to get back to normal, or I want to move to a future normal, or and so to sit and go, this isn't the new normal, almost increases angst in some moments. But to say this is the new normal almost feels like a descent into hopelessness
Mm,
of going, we're just going to be forever isolated in our houses. I'm never going to hug my brother again,
mm,
right? Like people are now going to die without people being able to visit them, right? Like that's horrible. Like
yeah.
there's such a hopelessness in that.
Yeah.
And so there's that part of me that goes like, do not embrace the new normal because you will descend into hopelessness and despair. There's another part that says embrace the new normal or you will go nuts because you're bitter against it. And then there's
Mm,
this other part, because two isn't enough. There's this other part that says, but if we embrace that it's a new normal, then there's all sorts of opportunities for like creativity, and we can innovate new things and have new expressions of things. And like, how exciting would that be? And we can really figure out what community looks like in a new context because we're embracing the normalcy of it. And then I've got the other voice.
I have a
So
fourth one. You
go,
thought two was
go.
not, and then you added three. The fourth one is like maybe we just need to redefine what normal is. Like redefine, and it's
Like what
changing.
the word means, or like,
Maybe so. Like normal to me is this is how it's always going to be, which I know that that is a place that I can go easily. So if I'm going to feel something, then I'm going to feel it for a second, but then I need it to stop.
I,
But if,
I oh, go ahead.
well, I think that when I say new normal, it makes me think that this is just how it's always going to be.
So I hate the word new on there.
Hmm.
I almost wonder if we need to change the qualifier, because actually, as I was listening to you talk, I wonder if putting the word current on there
Yeah.
changes that, because I hate the idea of this being the new and future normal.
Mhm.
And this is not the past normal. There is something different. And so I do, it does make me wonder if I say this is the current normal that holds the possibility for a different future normal while also acknowledging this has changed a lot from the past normal.
Yep.
That settles with me differently.
Hmm. Yeah. It that brings a lot of hope because then if it's a current normal, it's going to teach us how to adjust and how to be prepared for other people adjusting in different ways than we are because we're all going to accept and sit in this current normal in a different way and that's okay. We're all trying to make sense of all of this all the time and it shifts so quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. I like that current normal.
I don't
I'll
like
make
anything
a
right
logo.
now.
I'll make a logo.
I don't like it because I don't like anything right now.
Oh,
But
cool.
that's just in this moment. I may really love it in like 10 minutes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm really curious to how people listening to this episode of the podcast, because we are going way faster, right? Like when I'm angsty, man, my pace speeds up. I don't leave as much room. Like the
mhm,
snarkiness comes out, but also like the the spinning. So I wonder as people are listening if they can feel right the way that the fluctuation causes spinning, causes drowning, flailing, if you will.
mhm.
Um, yeah, and just how actually, I mean, as we hit that like current normal, and I could feel myself almost settling a little bit in that, and just go, man, like I just freaking need to breathe a little bit.
Mm. I I don't think I really hear people talking about it like this though.
Mm,
I don't hear a lot of this. So I imagine that there will be someone that listens that this resonates with
yeah.
in a different way than other things do.
Hmm. Yeah, well, I mean, you and I were even toying around like, do we record this podcast? Do we not? And I was like, I'm kind of in a bad mood. And then we're like, well, let's just talk about it. And well, so here we are. And what I'm experiencing, even right here we are, we're like 20 minutes into this or something like that. And how being able to like vocalize all of that, I'm a whole lot slower right now, right? I mean, you could feel there's a little bit more of a settling. Maybe I just wore myself out.
Maybe. What kind of vulnerable does it feel to have these kind of conversations?
Well, because I never just feel one thing, right? So like, there's the one part. It's like, man, I hope people appreciate what this. Maybe this resonates with them. Maybe it helps them. Another part of going like, man, who's gonna hate this, and who's gonna think I'm just so full of crap and like doesn't resonate with this, and then going like, what do I care what people think? And then the other part goes like, but I do care what people think, right? So there's all of those things. I think anytime you record, so that's why for years I avoided actually recording anything. I'll
Hmm.
sit down and talk with people. So this is like the happy medium where we get to talk, and then somehow we're recording it, and we'll see what happens with it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, there's just I think in particular when it comes to emotional world, it's such a um, fickle place. It's also a fragile place,
Hmm.
right? Like landing in it awkwardly can be quite disruptive.
Hmm.
And I do think that the era of time that we're in, we need more emotionally oriented conversations where we can be honest.
Yep.
I also recognize that when I'm spinning, encountering someone else who is spinning can in some ways amplify my spinning,
Mm.
right? That there are moments when I encounter someone who's also struggling that I go, oh, I feel known. Oh, I can feel so grounded. And then there are other times when I'm like, you're panicking too? Now I'm panicking more. Ah.
Yeah.
And I just never quite know which way it'll go.
Yeah. Which I don't like that feeling, the not knowing, the feeling out of control, the having no idea where to go next or where it's going to go. That kind of vulnerability feels really difficult.
Mhm,
But I also know that people need to hear this. Like
mhm.
people need to hear these kind of conversations, I think.
We need to have them, whether
Yeah.
they're listened to or not. I think I need to be having them. That's why I'm doing them. That's why you're doing them. Right? We need to be having these conversations together
Yeah.
because I don't imagine that that shifting emotions are going to decrease in the coming weeks.
No. Nope. So one of the things, and that even that idea earlier, you said, I wish I would have, I don't know how you worded it, slowed down and thought about my answer before just answering.
Yeah.
Um, there's a lot of times that it feels like answers just need to be polished,
Mhm.
or we need to have thought through it, because what will happen if we don't? And I think everyone's fear of not having it polished to their
Mhm.
standard is different. Like the reason is different. But to just actually speak or just sit with someone, it's something I've been offering to people and trying to accept myself, is these virtual meetings that I'm having, a lot of times they're like scheduled.
Mhm.
So we have a call at this time, we're going to talk about something. But what about the random times?
Mhm.
Like I just had two 15-minute calls that were kind of structured,
Yeah.
but really I want to do more of those. I want to offer, like, even virtually we can just sit with each other, we don't even have to talk about anything, we can
Well,
just sit, acknowledge it.
as you're saying that, right? Like that's the piece that perhaps more than anything is what is absent in our community engagement right now, right? I think like so when we're together at Great Oaks and we have 8 different offices, and on any given day you've got all 12, 14 of our therapists that come through the halls, and in any workday we have these moments where we catch people between sessions or in the midst of something. And so when we're thinking about having those fluctuating emotional experiences, there's often places to outlet them, to express them, to share them, that we don't ride that roller coaster ourselves.
Yep.
And as you said that, it's sitting going like, yeah, that's something that we don't have access to, right? Like I'll go through my day, and then maybe at the end of my day, now I've got all of these things that have been pent up in, where a normal workday, maybe this gets let out here and this gets let out there, and and so there's not as much. Everything gets so condensed, and then we end up in like a conversation. We're trying to unpack all of it. Going, that's
Mhm.
not really how life works.
No.
Like you can't just hold on to it all day and then unload it all in one place. But how we navigate the isolation and the social distancing of many of us don't have access to the people that we would outlet those shifting emotions when all we need is an outlet and now we're okay. We don't have access to those things.
Yeah. And so to hold all of those in until you have a set, like structured time, is you lose the realness of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then when someone asks, how are you? I like how I am right now is fine. But what I really wanted was for you to be there when I experienced
Yeah.
it at,
Yeah.
10 o'clock yesterday morning or whenever.
So I know we need to wrap up. I was just thinking about the question that I've started to shift to, because the "how are you" question just feels horrible right now, right? Like, where in the world do we even start answering that
Yeah.
question? How am I? Like, what part of me in what moment of my day? Like, related to what? Like,
Yeah.
all normalcy is gone. So, like, how are you? Like, who knows? So, I've found myself more and more just asking, like, where are you?
Mm,
Like, where is your head?
that's a 4 question.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Maybe it doesn't make sense to anybody else. It makes total sense to me of going like what emotion are you sitting in? Like what experience are you coming out of? Like where are you? That gives us a starting point. Cause like the how are you, like what do you even start with?
Yeah. Nope. Oh, I think you could ask me like, what is the sound,
Yeah.
a non-word that
Yeah.
describes what your internal world is saying? And I'd be
Yeah.
like, ugh, that's it right now.
Yep.
And that's enough. And then
Yeah.
saying like, yeah, same.
Well, so I think because here we are on this podcast episode talking about normalizing, fluctuating, shifting emotions. I think when we talk about normalizing them, right, and you talked about we need to acknowledge them, we need to express them. I don't think language is the only option we have, right? Like, so you're highlighting sounds,
Yep.
right? I think being able to sit there are some people who emotions are through music, like swap songs with people, like if you have shifting emotions, put together a playlist that captures the 25 different shifting emotions you might have in a day and send it to someone and going, this is how I'm doing. Just listen through the playlist. You'll
Yeah.
get a sense to where I'm at, right? Or like sounds, or one of the questions that I'll often ask clients, like when they're having trouble putting language on feelings, is like, does it have a color? Does it have a weight? Does it have a shape? Like, cause to sit and go like, I feel like dark purple prickly huge,
Yeah.
that describes an experience. Or like I feel like tiny and invisible,
Yeah.
that's right. So those describe feelings. So I think there's a lot of room for creativity as we're trying to normalize the shifting emotions that maybe doesn't carry the pressure of like finding the right word for it, of
Yeah.
just going, I feel like,
Exactly.
which
Or
isn't
like
what I'm feeling now.
facial like this.
Yeah, what I'm feeling right now is like,
You got to freeze frame that. That will be the cover of this podcast. Is it that, or like I'm gonna make a funny video later, or memes
yeah,
to show what it's like to go
yeah,
through a day in my
yeah.
head, in my body. Yeah.
You should do that.
I
You
probably
should yes, you should do that. That would be great.
should.
So, okay, well we're gonna stop the recording here. This has been a fascinating ride.
I don't know
Um,
if you're expecting something different
I
than
have no
fascinating.
idea. I hope that whoever listens, if you made it all the way through, thank you for listening. I hope it's been helpful. We are with you on this journey. This
Yeah.
is a strange time, a strange era. Please, please, please be kind to yourself. Give yourself lots of space and grace. And I'm saying this so that I can hear myself say this. because it's so easy to beat ourselves up and become frustrated that we're not where we want to be or functioning the way that we want to be functioning or in rhythms that we want to be in. And it's really important that we continue to be kind to ourselves and kind to one another. So, Michelle, thank you for going on this strange ride with me, and we will talk more soon.
Awesome. Thanks.